Will having 6 ways in his sideboard to kill a Rest in Peace. Snapcaster Mage, also pretty significant that you're not Rest in Peacing yourself. You can still get use out of your Snapcaster Mages while keeping Unburial Rites, in check with your Purify the Graves. Not as good as against, say, the Lingering Souls, but I don't know. I think actually better against the Unburial Rites because, it can't be killed by an Acidic Slime or an Abrupt Decay like a Rest in Peace can. As for Game 1, I will say one of the bigger things, one of the more significant deck building choices that's going to impact this matchup is Jonathan Job does not have Dissipate.
Yep, and that's a big deal.
He is playing 2 Essence Scatter, 2 Rewind, 2 Counterflux. And Essence Scatter, it's okay, not great. Rewind is pretty good, but Counterflux instead of Dissipate, very good in all the control matchups, but not that good here because you want that card exiled. Whether it's a Thragtusk that you're countering, so that it can't be Unburial Rites, or an Unburial Rites that you're countering so it can't be flashed back. You would love to have that card exiled, and instead it's going straight to the yard, which is exactly where Will wants it to be.
Lets him get full value out of his cards. Unburial Rites is kind of the straw that stirs the drink, ties the room together, and the Unburial Rites in this matchup are just going to be turned on 100% here. If Jonathan does kind of the front end, Will's always going to be able to cast the back end. Mana problems withstanding, he'll be able to do that and just get full value out of that card. Personally, looking at the matchup, I find it very difficult for John to be able to win Game 1.
I was about to ask, what do you think? What do you think about the matchup?
Yeah, I think that Game 1 leans very heavily in Will's favor. If Job is able to steal Game 1, then I think he might be able to steal the matchup. But I think Game 1 definitely leans towards Craddock, and then Job is going to have to obviously win Game 2 and Game 3, and it's going to revolve around those pieces of graveyard removal and maybe really closing the door on games very, very quickly. Among other things, but it's going to be very difficult. I think this is an uphill climb for Job to win the matchup, but certainly Game 1.
Yeah, I agree. I think Job has his work cut out for him. I think that Game 1 is quite unfavorable. Post-board gets a little better, but also post-board, another key card, Will is bringing in the second copy of Cavern of Souls, which we saw absolutely dominate this exact matchup on camera yesterday, playing for top 8 against John Pennick. That Cavern of Souls enabling you to just run straight through Jonathan Job's counter magic, which is what he needs to be leaning on to 1-for-1 you as the Junk Reanimator player, setting up that Sphinx's Revelation to pull ahead. If you can force through your threats, keep them on the back foot, you're going to be able to overwhelm them almost assuredly. Another significant thing from Jonathan Job's deck is he doesn't actually have the cleanest kill available to him. I think that, it's really, really important to close out games because the Junk Reanimator deck is so grindy, its late game is so good, it has so many high impact cards in its deck that it doesn't mind playing top deck mode because a lot of its cards are very powerful.
Yep.
Whereas some of the other decks in the metagame, such as Naya Blitz, would prefer to not play off the top of their deck.
Some real stinkers out there in the Naya Blitz deck.
But almost every card in the Junk Reanimator deck is fairly high impact, so you want to get them dead. You want to get them. You don't want to, stabilize and then sort of turn the tides. You need to kill the opponent, which is quite hard to do when it's gaining life and has so many high impact cards and resilient threats. Jonathan Job's kill is Aurelia the War Leader, which is a fairly fast clock, relatively fast clock, but it's not very clean. And what I mean by that is it's quite disruptible. You can chump a bunch with Lingering Souls tokens, you can be blocking with Restoration Angels, and it doesn't actually deal a huge amount of damage because, you don't really have that many other creatures that also get to attack. A lot of the other Flash decks have the kill of Boros Reckoner plus either Harvest Pyre or Blasphemous Act, often both. And I feel like that's a lot cleaner of a kill in this matchup, even though it's kind of hard to get because you're going to have to do like 28 to the Junk
Yeah.
Reanimator deck. But I do feel that that's a much cleaner kill, as well as Boros Reckoner being quite powerful against Thragtusk heavy draws. Quite good against the card Thragtusk. So I feel like Jonathan Job not having access to the Boros Reckoners might be what keeps him down in this finals.
So both players do shake hands. We are underway here at the Star City Games Open Series in Kansas City. Our final match of Standard. It's about time that we crown a champion here, AJ. If you guys are just joining us, we do appreciate it. AJ Soccer, Cedric Phillips in the booth here. If you guys do want to interact with us on Twitter, tell me how much of a doofus I am for not knowing Ender's Games references, which plenty of you have already done. I appreciate that. SCG
Thanks, guys.
Live, hashtag SCGKC. We'll be interacting with you guys all day long. We do have a beauty of a finals matchup here.
Yes, this is a wonderful matchup. Not only the decks, but also the players. You know, both quite impressive resumes, and as we've said, these are really the ultimate decks of Standard. I feel like I'm excited to watch just to learn, because this is going to be a matchup that's going to be played countless times in the coming weeks of Standard, and you know, seeing two players as good as these guys play it out, I'm sure that we can all learn quite a bit about how the matchup goes, how to play it, and yeah.
Yeah, by Orlando next weekend when Brad Nelson and I are doing coverage, or in the Invitational with Osip and Tom Martell and I doing coverage. Gonna see a lot of this, I think.
Certainly.
A lot of this matchup
Absolutely.
within the next 2 weeks. So if you guys are watching coverage at home for the next couple of weeks, get used to it, because it's not going anywhere.
It is certainly not.
Not going anywhere.
So, Will mulliganing. I think that Jonathan. Oh no, this is modified play draw rule, right? So Will is on the play.
Yeah, Will's gonna be on the play,
Okay.
as he is our #1 seed, and he is taking a mulligan down to 6 here right now. But one of the things that also makes Junk Reanimator a great deck outside of Unburial Rights and Thragtusk, Angel Strandy, and all its awesome cards, is that it's a deck that actually mulligans well too, because it does have Mulch and Grizzly Salvage to kind of undo some of those mulligans, make sure it's able to hit its land drops and just continue to play a game of Magic even though it's down a few cards.
Yeah. A lot of his cards represent more than one card worth of value, and having those high impact cards, as well as pseudo card drawers or card filterers, also significant.
All right, so we are underway. Will Craddock begins with a Temple Garden. Jonathan Job with a Hollow Fountain passes the turn back. We see an Isolated Chapel, and we'll see if he has a Mulch or a Grizzly Salvage here.
No Mulch.
After John's done with his turn too.
Please check your pockets, make sure you have your keys, because we have a setup here.
Said you got your keys?
I do have my keys.
All right, cool.
I appreciate you asking.
Yeah.
We see a Forest, and we are going to see a Centaur Healer join the party. You see Job move a Essence Scatter to the front of his hand. He's going to take care of that right away. Does not want to be pressured, as he did not want to be pressured last match by Loxodon and Smiter.
Yeah, it's definitely important to create space for yourself in the early game so that you can use your resources, getting traction, generating velocity to get up to your Sphinx's Revelation point. And, getting hit for 3 a turn is fairly significant clock, kind of an annoying clock, and easy 1-for-1 there. Happy to take it.
And now we see one of the more important cards in this matchup. We see Craddock play a Cavern of Souls, and we will figure out what that Cavern of Souls is naming. The sweet spots here are Beast and Angel as far as names are concerned. It is going to be Angel here for Craddock, so you're going to see a Restoration Angel on the end step that cannot be countered by Job, and you see Job does have a Rewind in his hand. He's not going to be able to use that. We'll see.
Rewind and a Counterflux.
We'll see if Craddock does have more Angels in his hand, but first we're going to start with Restoration Angel coming across for 3, knocking Job down to 17.
This is the type of game state that Jonathan Job is the most comfortable in. The type of game that could be happening that Jonathan Job is the happiest with. The alternative being a graveyard-oriented draw. A Mulch, Grizzly Salvage, Unburial Rights type of draw that Jonathan Job has, I don't want to say no hope, but it is significantly worse for him than Will just kind of casting creatures. I mean, that is the type of game that Blue-White Red Flash can certainly win. And
you are going to see a Grizzly Salvage here from Will on Jonathan's end step, making him tap mana on his own turn, but Rewind says, I don't mind too much.
This is a perfect example of Jonathan Job saying, no, I like the type of game that we're playing right now, where you just play guys and, you know, I'm able to 1-for-1 them. Let's keep doing that. Let's stay out of this graveyard business. That's a lot scarier.
I prefer if you don't use your graveyard as an extension of your hand.
Yeah, please. Please play fair, play from only your hand. Graveyard, it implies that it's dead. It's done. Still, let's keep them there.
Dead in air quotes. And we're going to see a upkeep Grizzly Salvage here by Craddock.
Wow, Jonathan Job pulls the counterflux to the front of his hand. I mean, with a Cavern on Angel, you know, yeah, let's keep playing this type of game. I like it. I do not mind that at all. You know, definitely not the most profitable of exchanges, but Jonathan Job just trying to, stay in this mode of play, if you will.
The difficult thing for Job here, as you see Restoration Angel coming across again, is that it's almost like every card that will cast is a must counter, and you know he'll run out of counter spells eventually, as you are going to see in Avacyn's Pilgrim here from Craddock. You know, that's one that he doesn't have to counter. He can take care of that with a Searing Spear or a Pillar of Flame that he does have in his hand. But, you know, when the Thraktos starts showing up, and the Lingering Souls and everything else, you know, every card he's going to want to counter. So countering Grizzly Salvage in the short term is good. In the long term, it may be poor, but he needs to be able to get to the long term for it to matter anyway.
Absolutely. So. Will missing his 5th land drop a couple times, I would actually be pretty happy to Azorius Charm this Restoration Angel on top of Will's deck, try and keep him from getting to that all-important 5th mana that turns on the Thrag Tusk and the Obsidat and the, I guess Obsidat doesn't work with this mana, but, and the Unburial Rites. And that is exactly what Jonathan Job does. Take a turn off.
Trigger pull, Azorius Charm is going to put that up to the top, and we are going to see Lotleth Troll.
A big Searing Spear target on the head of that troll. Jonathan Job with, after the spear, Craterhoof Behemoth being discarded.
All right.
Will, not afraid of Graveyard Hate in Game 1, knows that the Unburial Rites is likely going to happen. Jonathan Job flooding out a little here, but I mean that's going to happen when you use your cards as, you know, 1-for-1s rather than creating velocity by cycling your charm, digging towards those Sphinx's Revelations, and think twices to get you traction in the game. Yeah, that is to be expected. Jonathan Job set this game up where he basically needed to peel, but you know he knows the matchup. He knows he's not favored, and he knows that he's going to have to do something significant to win the game.
So now you see Craddock finally just draw the 5th land and Overgrown Tomb. Going to push himself down to 18th. Cannot cast Unburial Rites fast enough. We're not sure what the target is on that, but it's not going to matter right now.
Likely the Hoof, if I had to guess.
As Snapcaster Mage with a Counterflux is going to take care of the front end of that Unburial Rites. The problem, of course, is the back end on that, which makes it such a powerful card, as Job does draw a timely Restoration Angel, and he does have enough mana right now to play Restoration Angel, blink that Snapcaster Mage, and rewind.
Again, Will doing a good job of using his 2-for-1s while Jonathan Job is trying to 1-for-1 but can't quite keep pace. And because it's a Craddock Behemoth, a hasty creature, he actually did it. Will cast the Unburial Rites pre-combat, which actually lets the Restoration Angel from Jonathan Job threaten a block on Will's and saves him 3 points of damage there.
Yeah, so he's not able to attack, and so we have a bit of a Restoration Angel standoff. We'll see if Craddock's able to play another Unburial Rites if he has one. And as he reaches towards his mana a little bit, you see him tapping 5, and you have another Unburial Rites here, targeting, which is likely to be the Craterhoof Behemoth, the card that we'll bring up on screen for you guys. You've got the trigger, and you've got the beatdowns.
Sin is Jet, Cedric.
I suppose know that reference?
Yeah.
What's that one?
Final Fantasy X.
Oh, okay, I do know that one.
Okay, good.
Yep, I do know that one. Okay.
Doesn't Craterhoof Behemoth look like Sin?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I'll give it to you.
Thank you.
As you do see a double block there, Craterhoof Behemoth on the screen.
Supreme Verdict in hand, but that does not answer the back end of the Unburial Rites. Once again, Unburial Rites, double duty.
Is a really good Magic card.
Yeah, it's very good.
It's currently my pick for best Magic card in the format.
It's
in the current
it's
format
not
that
bad.
We're in. As you do see, Umbrella Red starting Greater Behemoth, and Sin is Jacked.
Sin is Jack.
I see what you did, and bang, it is over. Craddock up a game here over Jonathan Job, as we are going to cut back to the booth, because it is trivia time once again.
It means I need to like sit up.
Yeah, you can do whatever you want, it's fine.
Stop doing my
change your hair color, whatever,
my, like,
no big
beanbag
deal.
impression when I'm just like slumped over watching the game.
It is time to give away a full year for those of you guys who have woken up early with us.
You get to read our articles. You're premium, right? No. I actually genuinely didn't mean to dagger you there. I thought that you were. I'm sorry. I hope that we can still be friends. I don't mind being friends with the plebeians on the free side.
I like being select. It's a choice.
I was gonna say it's actually a choice for you, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a choice.
Yeah.
I actually choose to be select. I don't want my
It's
articles
true.
behind the wall. I want y'all to be able to read what I have to say about things.
Well, if you want to read my articles,
yeah, every
then
2
you
months.
gotta pay.
Every 2 months, you decide to
Whenever
write
I
one.
feel.
Hey, here's an article in the works.
Hey, I was gonna say I'm working on 2, and there's one coming out this week.
Wow.
I already submitted it. I submitted it Thursday. It should be up this week.
Wow. I'm probably gonna write this week, but you can read AJ stuff if you win this contest. 12 months right now. Full
And like
year.
Jerry and stuff. You know,
Whatever.
them too.
Whatever. Full year. Here's your question. It's a doozy. In Will Craddock's deck list, he has one main deck legendary creature that is a little bit difficult to cast. From the new set, Gate Crash. And if you're able to name that creature, that's a little bit difficult to cast. He has one in his main deck, also has one in his sideboard. You're probably going to see it come in here as well. We're probably going to talk about it in a few minutes as well, too, so you want to keep your ears open. Hashtag the answer to hashtag SCG Premium. We'll select one of the people who do get the answer correct. We will select one of the winners and give away a full year of premium. We will announce that winner after this particular matchup. Again, the question: Will Craddock does have one main deck legendary creature that's a little bit difficult to cast. He also has one in his sideboard that we're probably going to talk about like in under 60 seconds. And if you're able to name that card, hashtag your answer to hashtag SCG Premium on Twitter. We'll select one of the winners. Again, it's about accuracy, not speed. This is no contest here. And we will give away 12 months premium.
So Jonathan Job likely bringing in his third copy of Supreme Verdict to keep Will's creature count down. You know, stop the beatdowns a little, not get absolutely value towns by Lingering Souls. But Will has a pretty interesting answer to the Wrath of God variant in the form of Obsidat Ghost Council.
Pretty good card, tough to cast.
Legendary, so even though he does have 2 copies post board, he's not going to be able to cast them both as one of your opponents did on your stream in a limited game, I believe.
That is true.
That was impressive.
That did happen.
That was impressive. What's better than one? Obsidat Ghost Council.
2 of them.
2 of them.
2 of them. That is something that can occur. I would not recommend it, but hey, it is within the rules to be able to cast a
Yeah, there's no rule against it. There's certainly no rule against it.
Taking a look at Craddock's sideboard, he obviously knows that Job has, does he have, actually, does Job not have Rest in Peace?
He does not. He has Purify and
he has
Torment
Purify.
Script.
Okay, so he has Purify and Torment Script. So normally what you find in this matchup is you see people boarding their Acidic Slimes and their Abrupt Decays to take care of those Rest in Peace. And that's normally what a Junk Reanimator player has to do, is they have to hedge against those cards and board them in against the person that has white mana. Because both players have access to deck list, and we have deck list in front of you, and you guys see the sideboards on the screen, that's not something that Craddock has to do.
Yeah.
As a result, he can kind of just play a normal game of Magic again against Job's deck. You know, he does have to be wary of the 2 Purify the Grace and the Torment Script, but he doesn't have to worry about the backbreaker that is Rest in Peace. As a result, he's probably just going to board in that Obsidat and the Cavernous Souls and probably move on with his life. Maybe he does select the board in maybe an Acidic Slime, maybe Deathrite Shaman or Abrupt Decay, but I would be a little bit surprised if that does happen. But I think, you know, the things that you can certainly check mark off are the Obsidat Ghost Council and the Cavernous Souls coming in.
I agree. I think that Deathrite Shaman is probably coming in, only because Will has a couple cards that are a little suboptimal here, and Deathrite Shaman pretty good against Snapcaster Mage, and actually, funnily enough, not too bad against Purify.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, if you get one thing purified and then you use it on another, you Deathrite the other side of it, and then they have to use it right away, and then you can, you know, go back to the graveyard right away. Not the most significant interaction, but it does come up from time to time. I think Deathrite's main purpose is an unblockable clock, that can't be Azorius Charmed, and Snapcaster Mage protection.
Now, one of the things you do have to be careful with in your sideboarding for this deck, again, is it is kind of like a combo deck. Not combo wouldn't be the best way to describe it, but it is a deck that is based around an engine, and how much do you want to dilute that engine is a good question. Now, cards that Will can sideboard out here, Lotless Troll is a card that I don't think is very exciting in this matchup. You're not sure if he wants to keep in the Crater of Behemoth combo kill. He's definitely going to want to leave Lingering Souls. Does he want Crater of Behemoth as well? That's kind of a question that he has to ask himself. Centaur Healer, also a little bit weak here, but he does want to get things started right away. So, a 3/3 is actually pretty good with a deck that's full of Snapcaster Mage and Augur of Bolas. Can't get through Restoration Angel, of course, but you do want to get the clock started at some point. So what he does elect to sideboard out will be interesting, but he definitely has plenty of things to sideboard in.
That is definitely true. And on the other side, I've already kind of went over John's sideboarding, but really gonna have to lean on these graveyard hate cards, because as good as Sphinx's Revelation is at outcarding the opponent, it actually can't race down an Unburial Rites on its own.
Yeah.
It just can't, because not only is Unburial Rites both sides, but the cards that it's getting, Thragtusk, Angel, Crater of Behemoth, are all so hard to exchange profitably with themselves that you are. It's like a tree. It's branching off of value. Value here, value there, and I don't know. It's just really hard to run down, even with a Sphinx's Revelation. If you can get the optimal Sphinx's Revelation, transitioning from that mid to late game for 4 or 5, it's often not enough.
So you see both players are happy with their 7 cards. Job is going to lead off with a Hallowed Fountain, while Craddock starts with a Temple Garden. So we are underway here in Game 2 of the finals between Jonathan Job and Will Craddock. Junk Reanimator versus Blue-White-Red Flash. You see Job has a couple Sulphur Falls in his hand, also the Desolate Lighthouse, and it looks like we're going to see an Augur of Bolas here. So we'll see if Job is able to find a Purify the Grave off of this, as he reveals Augur of Bolas, Sacred Foundry, and Detention Sphere. Bottoms up, bottoms up.
Yep. That is another interesting point, talking about Purify versus the other graveyard hate available, namely Torment's Crypt and Rest in Peace, is instead of breaking off with your Augurs, you can actually use your Augurs to search for them.
You do see a main phase Grizzly Salvage here revealing Lotless Troll, Grizzly Salvage number 2, Mulch, Thragtusk, and an Overgrown Tomb. And the reason you see that is because in Game 1, we saw that Job was very willing to fight over Grizzly Salvages with counter magic, and Will understands how important that card resolving is to his deck, so he's just going to cast that right away. Looks like he is moving Lotless Troll over to go to the hand here, and the other 4 will go to the bin. Signifies that he probably has enough lands right now that he's happy.
What we're seeing here is just 2 very good players properly assessing how the game is going to play out and what's important and what's not. Game 1, we saw Jonathan Job know how important those early Grizzly Salvages were and willing to use his counter magic up on it. Will here, the same thing on the other side, knows that Jonathan Job can properly assess that, doesn't want to get his Grizzly Salvage countered. You may see 2 slightly weaker, maybe less experienced players in this exact matchup have that same exact result where the Grizzly Salvage resolves, but it would be the Junk Reanimator player passing because he underrates his Grizzly Salvage, and then the Blue-White-Red Flash player not countering it because he also underrates how important it is.
Yeah. So we do see Craddock has elected to leave in at least 1 Centaur Healer, pushing us up to 22, putting a 3/3 in the way of that Augur of Bolas. Job does take the opportunity to resolve a Think Twice. You see, he did draw in Aurelia the War Leader off of that. That's one way, again, for him to close the door very quickly on this game. And you also see a Counterflux in his hand as well. So Job wants to get to that 6-mana sweet spot and really just get this game over with as fast as he can, as I don't think that a long game is one that favors him. He needs to take control momentarily and then close the door as fast as he can, and Aurelia is a card that allows him to do that, as we do see Craddock looking to attempt to resolve a Mulch here, and Job is going to give this some thought.
Yeah, this is a crucial turn, a crucial play. Jonathan Job does let it go, but he definitely thought about it there. I think that if that were a salvage, that Jonathan Job would have pulled the trigger. I think that Mulch is a lot less threatening, and because it doesn't represent 2 threats, it represents, the graveyard thing and a little card advantage, but it's the double threats that that Jonathan Job's worried about, and so he chooses not to use it, instead using his mana to flash back that Think Twice.
And off that mulch, you saw Craddock did take 2 lands to his hand. The cards that go to the graveyard, which are more important, are Craddock Behemoth and Angel's Serenity.
So he did leave in the Behemoths, at least, one of them, and I mean, I have to say I agree with that. You know, if you Cavern of Souls Beast for your Thragtusk, then you enter the late game, you Crater Hoof Behemoth off of it, that's a pretty powerful sequence. It's a pretty hard to beat sequence.
So you see Job is going to play a Desolate Lighthouse for the turn. You see his hand is a little bit full of lands here, but he does have that Aurelia, does have that Counterflux. Looks like he has a Snapcaster Mage as well right now.
Well, if you are a little flooded, Loot House is a good card to have.
Yeah, can't complain too much. As Craddock does draw a card here. Taking a look at his options. A lot of cards over there in Will Craddock's hand, but he's going to start with Centaur Healer coming across. Augur Bolus is going to jump in the way here.
Poor Augur just always bricks off and then chumps.
Yeah.
that's his lot in life.
People wonder why I don't play blue. I'm really interested in crappy cards like that.
That's his calling. That's his destiny.
Yeah. And you see Craddock
Fifth
is going
lands.
to play Forest, and Acidic Slime is going to bite the Counterflux.
Yeah, I mean, a must counter. Will not having one of his 2 Cavern of Souls to force that through, kill the Lighthouse, and which would also cut down on Jonathan Job's ability to A, do 2 things in a turn, and B, Revelation to pull ahead into the as we're sort of entering the end stages of the mid game.
You see Job does have his 6th land and a second source of white mana for Aurelia, but he's electing not to cast it. He's going to represent Snapcaster Mage here on the Counterflux or activating Desolate Lighthouse.
I think if he didn't have one of those, he would have cast Aurelia. But since he can use his mana, whether Will plays something that he can counter or not, then this makes it a lot better for him to just take the turn off of Aurelia.
Now you see Craddock does play a Cavern of Souls. I'm going to guess that's naming Spirit, AJ, as Obsidat is come to town.
Well, from his colored mana sources, we can actually confirm without hesitation that it is indeed naming Spirit.
And this is part of the reason I think that he did want to cast that Aurelia, because truthfully, you know, you can make an argument for wanting to represent Snapcaster Mage plus Counterflux to counter the next spell, but if the matches that we watched from John Pennick yesterday are any indication, it is very easy for a lot of decks to blow up, you know, a counter spell being represented. Both times we had Pennick on camera yesterday, his plans of Dissipate were blown up completely by Cavern of Souls.
I think. Sorry.
And now you see this happening once again. Now, of course, by tapping out with Aurelia, you know, it leaves the shields down, but I feel like if I'm in Jonathan Job's position, I have to get a little bit lucky in this matchup anyway, so I'm just going to hope that my Aurelia is good and just get in there and cross my fingers that Will just doesn't have very much.
I agree completely. I think the one thing that differs here from the John Pennick matches is that Will played his 5th land and a 5-drop. That is pretty good without using the Cavern. I think that to Jonathan Job, if I'm in Jonathan Job's seat, signifies that maybe he doesn't have a Cavern and that my Counterflux is live.
Sure.
Will, playing it quite masterfully, set it up with the Cavern on the following turn with the much more threatening Obsidat Ghost Council. And Jonathan Job, you know, resigns to just using his Lighthouse.
And now you see a difficult turn here for Job, because what I think we're going to see is we're going to see a Searing Spear target the Obsidat, Snapcaster Mage, and then flashback the Spear targeting the Obsidat. But if Craddock has an Imperial Rights, all of this is just for naught.
Yeah. He's actually going to do the slightly more optimized block the Obsidat to finish that off, healer. And use the Searing Spear on the healer. So theoretically, Jonathan Job has cleared the board, but as you say, the shields are down, and Will has some scary stuff in his deck.
He's going to tap 5 mana. I smell...
Anything that's 5 is scary.
Yeah, literally any 5 mana
Imperial
spell.
Rights, Obsidat, every option that could have been used there is scary. It is indeed the second Obsidat, and Will remembering to blink it out this time.
A little hiccup yesterday.
Yeah. He was laughing about that, though. He's you know, a jolly dude and a very fine player in his own right. So this is definitely a favorable position for him. Jonathan Job flooded out again. No Revelation, which is really what you need in these types of spots. the Obsidat threatening lethal in, to kill Jonathan Job in Will's next upkeep. Come in, drain to 6, attack to 1, leave play again. Almost unstoppable drain after that. So I'm not actually sure if this is better than looting, unless Jonathan Job plans on chump blocking with his Angel.
Which is a painful thing to see. We
Oh,
see the leader of their individual guilds, Obsidat, the leader of its guild, Aurelia, the leader of the Boros guild. One of these cards is better than the other.
Whoa!
And Crater of Behemoth is better than the rest, and that is gonna get the hand. Sin is jacked. Will Craddock, he redeemed himself from Dallas. He is a Star City Games Standard Open champion here in Kansas City.